Hello, I'm Lisa Welsh, and I was the communications manager for WAS 2021. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Annie Philpott from the Pleasure Project, and she's going to be chatting with us about her presentation. It is a really good one. Welcome, Annie. It is great to have you here today.
Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Oh, it's great. We need people to watch this symposium. Please, could you for anybody who doesn't know your work already, would you mind introducing yourself?
So I'm Annie from the Pleasure Project, and we put the sexy into safer sex because sex education is rarely sexy and erotica is rarely safe. So, in a nutshell, we work to promote pleasure-based sexual health, which we know is more effective and speaks to the realities of people's lives. And also because pleasure is arguably the main reason people have sex around the world. But also, we work to build bridges with the pleasure industry because there needs to be more conversations about how, porn or the sex toy industry actually talks about safety in all its forms. So we work to build across those two areas.
Wow, it is incredible that you're doing this work. And your symposium, your presentation was part of a fantastic symposium. It was one of the highlights for me. Would you mind sharing a little about that?
Yeah, no, it was really exciting because the symposium was long prepared, and it'd been a big build up because we knew that WAS was going to vote on the Sexual Pleasure Declaration, which had been launched at the Mexico Congress, and when a number of us were there, and I spoke about it then. But during the 2 years of the build up, the Sexual Pleasure Task Force, as we're called, had been working on ensuring that the Pleasure Declaration would be voted on. And we were hopeful that it was going to get agreed by WAS, and it did unanimously. So that's really exciting on September the 9th. So that's
Congratulations.
amazing because that's the first time for WAS and for a global normative agency to actually really prioritize the importance of sexual pleasure and really add a lot of credibility to the field
Mm,
because, pleasure is really exciting and it's fun and it kind of draws the crowds and it's something people want to talk about. But one thing I found is that sometimes people think, oh yeah, that's fun, but then they think it's a bit frivolous, particularly people in the public health world. Whereas actually it's really serious because by making your sex education or your sexual health work pleasure inclusive, it makes it more effective. It actually
mm,
prevents more sexually transmitted infections. It also, we know that if you talk about pleasure and be more comprehensive when you're teaching sex education, people feel more empowered. It's really important for gender equity because often for female identifying people, pleasure is even more stigmatized and taboo. So, it's really important that we have the pleasure declaration that integrates pleasure into conversations on sexual rights. It's great that WAS has done this. The Sexual Rights Declaration has had such an impact globally that WAS put out. People, when that declaration went out, people saw that as a bit novel. But now, you can't have a conversation in sexual and reproductive health without people talking about the Sexual Rights Declaration. And so that's where we're going with the Sexual Pleasure Declaration. I'm hoping that in maybe 10 years' time, people will say, how strange that we didn't have sexual
mm.
health programs that were pleasure inclusive. How odd that that was such a stigmatized and taboo subject. So that's what we're talking about in the symposium. And Eli Coleman, who's the chair of the Sexual Pleasure Task Force, gives a presentation about the Pleasure Declaration, the importance of it, the history of it. And then a range of us gave presentations which talked a bit more about the details and how to put it into action. So there's a really great presentation about comprehensive sexuality education with some really exciting examples by Mariana Cruz and Esther Corona, who are on the Sexual Pleasure Task Force. There's also a presentation about some of the technical papers that are coming out now. Um, so the International Journal of Sexual Health is going to be sort of, now the declaration's been confirmed, we're publishing a series of papers to sort of explore different elements of sexual pleasure. So sexual pleasure in healthcare settings, that paper's just come out with the evidence of its importance. Our paper has come out about research we're doing with the World Health Organization, a big systematic review we've been doing over the last couple of years on does pleasure inclusive sexual health improve sexual and reproductive health? So we talk about the background to that and the importance of that. And there's also a paper about why sex is good for you and all the health benefits of sex as well. So there's this whole series of papers coming out, which you should really check out, and they'll be introduced in the symposium. So if you have a look at that, that will kind of whet your appetite for all the evidence that's coming out. And then just one last publication that's coming out, a technical document is about to be published, which is the kind of evidence and the backup to the declaration, because the declaration is a fairly short document is a kind of call to action. The technical document goes through what the evidence is, so how you can make the case, different best, case studies and best practice from around the world of people who have actually been able to do pleasure-based sexual health.
Gosh, it is so exciting. And what a time to be at the forefront of this movement. It feels like a movement. It's exciting. And so please, Annie, don't hold us any longer. We need to hear about the Pleasure Project and exactly what that is going on behind you.
So yeah, and absolutely, I call it a wave, a pleasure wave. The pleasure wave is building, and here's our wave. I'll lean over so you can see. So we've designed 7 pleasure principles, and you can see them here, which alongside the technical document and the declaration, so these are the 3 key documents, will be really the practical actions to becoming a pleasure practitioner or a pleasure propagandist. So you might read the declaration and think that makes absolute sense, and the evidence is there that's what you have to do in your work or in your life. And then you have the technical document, but the pleasure principles will be practical, easy to follow steps, inspiring steps for you to look at and think, how can I take a step? What do I do then? And so you can see them here. You can just about see all of them, maybe not the top and the bottom, but at the core of the pleasure principles is the statement, be positive. So it's about flipping the narrative from one which has been death, danger and disease, and you must wear a condom or else you'll die or get ill. So it's really about flipping that narrative to saying, what have you enjoyed in your sex life? What was your most pleasurable sexual experience? And then thinking about how you want to recreate that, really turning it around to a really empowering conversation and changing the way that we have been talking about sexual health and sex. And then also really central to the principles is the importance of, I'm trying to put my finger, rights first. There you go. So basically, pleasure, a pleasurable sex life, pleasure-based sexual health has to be built on rights and sexual rights, the importance of consent, respecting gender identities, a range of sexual identities. And so that's really important to us. And then that's the platform on which you can have a pleasurable sex life or pleasurable sexual health. And then I won't go through all of them. I'll leave a little teaser so you can check our website. So at the moment, we're in the consultation period for people to give us feedback on these principles and what else they would like to have, what other resources and links they want to have on our website. So you can check them out on our website, and there's a bit more detail there. But there's a range of them, as you can see, about how to talk sexy, how to communicate in a more sex positive way. And the one you can't quite see at the top, one of my favorites, is love yourself. So the importance of understanding what makes you feel good, having conversations about that, understanding your boundaries, and then also having kindness and compassion for yourself and others. And not only yourself and your own sex life, but also all of us who are on this journey, this fairly new journey for all of us to move away from the experiences we've had, the very sex negative, scary experiences we've had of our own sex education, to actually move to a place where we can work together and build those connections, because it can be a bit scary and it can be isolating talking about pleasure, and you can get challenged on that. And so how we can really work together as a pleasure community at WAS and really support each other to take these steps. So do check them out, do give us your feedback. They're not a checklist, they're a series of steps. You can move up and down the wave, you can take one step, you can see how it feels, And what we're going to have on our website, we'll be launching in December the full principles document. It's not a document, it's like kind of online resource. What we'll have there is we'll have a description of each principle, what it means, how it links to the evidence and the pleasure declaration and the technical document, and then how to do it, like some, you know, easy to follow steps on how to do it, and then some links to best practice, some great funky examples from around the world. And so we'd love you to check them out and let us know what you think.
Wow, Annie, thank you so much for explaining that and giving us a teaser. It's just so interesting to have access to a document that gives actionable steps or a resource that actually, yes, we love the sound of pleasure, but how on earth do we make that happen? Like, it's great to see the way, like you said, the core and then the rights first. Yes, everybody needs to go and check this out. So everybody who registered for the Congress, for the 25th Congress, you have access to this symposium until the end of the year, which is approaching quite fast now, I have to say. If you have not signed up for WAS 2021 and you're feeling a bit of FOMO, it's not too late. You can still join the Congress and access all of the content for only $50. That is a lot of value for that money. So I'm going to add all of the links below, including everything that Annie just talked about. But thank you so much for sharing this with us today. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so enjoy the symposium. Maybe you want to watch it one evening because it's fun and it's sexy and you will be interested in it for sure.
I have no doubt. I can vouch for that. It was a highlight for me. Thank you, Annie.